You're listening to episode number 39 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what's in you. Now, by the title, it may seem like this is a rah-rah, you can do it, you've got the grit, you've got the determination, etc. kind of podcast, but it's not. Keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so in the introduction, I said, what's in you? And I also said in the introduction, many people, when people will say, well, do you have it in you? Many times you're talking about, as I said, grit and determination and the iron wheel, and are you going to make it happen? Are you going to put your nose to the grindstone, or are you going to get through, etc. But that's not what I mean in this podcast. So let's make this really simple. So I know I've probably asked you this before, and the reason I have is because it's such a powerful metaphor. But a couple of questions. When you squeeze an orange, what do you get? Well, obviously you get orange juice. What about when you squeeze a lemon? What do you get? You get a lemon. So the question that I have for you, because see, what comes out of the orange and the lemon is what's in the orange or the lemon. But what about you? Metaphorically, if I were to squeeze you, what would come out of you? And I do mean mentally, I don't mean physically or any of that, but I mean mentally, what would come out of you? So let me give you an example here. The Dalai Lama once said that you cannot be angry if there is no anger in you. The whole point of this episode is you cannot be unhappy if there is no unhappiness in you. You cannot be unhealthy if there is no unhealthiness in you. There's an ancient phrase, and it's pretty simple, and it goes like this: healthy mind, healthy body. So also, you cannot be, and I want to, spend a lot of time in this podcast because this pertains to a lot of you, but what it pertains to you is money, money consciousness. And you cannot be poor or paycheck to paycheck or struggling for money if that is not in you. Something I once heard, and by the way, let me back up here, and I'm kind of fumbling here because, as you know, I don't use notes. I don't make notes for these. I just sit down and I start talking. But I know that what's in me, and this is something that I say a lot to myself, is if I don't have it on the inside, I won't have it on the outside. What that means is, obviously, if I don't have it, in my self-image, I won't have it in my external world. But yet, all the other speakers out there, for the most part, most of them are telling you, you know what, you've got to go out there and you've got to hustle and you've got to grind it out and you've got to work and all these kind of things, which are all external things. This is why millions and millions, if not billions of people, they're working from the wrong part of the equation. They're working from the doing and not the being. Something that was once said to me, and it kind of like just hit me like a 2x4 right between the eyes. And I sat with this for a long time when it was said to me. And it was a very simple phrase. And it said, what's in you is at your service. When I heard that, it just stopped me in my tracks. And I remember just thinking about it and pondering and musing and being introspective with it for hours after I heard it. And even years later, that's very powerful. So let's look at this for a second. If anger is in you, anger's at your service. If health is in you, meaning in terms of your self-image and your unconscious identity, well, then it's at your service. If poverty consciousness is in you, well, then that is at your service. If wealth consciousness is in you, then that also is at your service. So we have to be really careful about what is in us because what is in us plays out in our external world. Also, whatever is in you serves you to the degree that it is in you. It plays out in your life to the degree to which it is in you as well. So by now, and you hear me talking on a lot of podcasts, let's look at your bank account. Now, if you're driving, obviously, I tell you all the time, pay attention to the road and do not do what I'm asking you to do. But maybe you just checked your bank, meaning physical things or writing down or whatever. But, have you checked your bank account the last couple of days? What is in your bank account? Consider that. What is in your bank account? Because what is in your bank account is in you. See, because your bank account is a reflection of you. What about your health? And the interesting thing is, I don't know why. I think I do, but I don't know why, is that so many people value money and external things over their own health, and they put their own health second. When people enroll in my transformational programs, stop that whole sentence, start again. When people enroll in my transformational programs, I will ask them to pick one major thing to work on, whether it's health or money. And I remember one time this woman said, you know what, I'm focused on my 7-figure business. That is the most important thing to me. Yet she was 100 pounds overweight. And, it's not my place to judge about her weight or anything. That's her thing. That's, her thing. Those are things that she has to work on. But obviously being 100 pounds overweight has a serious stress on the body. And about 3/4 of the way through the program, she said, you know what? You were right, Jim. I should have focused on my health and not on my business. But so many people actually focus on money as opposed to your health. And if you don't have good health, then guess what? The money that many people are chasing becomes even harder to chase because it's a lot easier to, metaphorically, and I'm just kidding here, it's a lot easier to chase money if you're trim and fit than it is, being 100 pounds overweight. And obviously, I'm kidding about that because I don't advocate that we chase money because money is actually a matter of, which you probably have heard, me say here. I think it's episode number 9 when I talk about the law of attraction. Money is a matter of actually thought and feeling and vibration and frequency. So we don't have to chase anything. We just have to be it on the inside. Sun Tzu, he said something that basically reflects everything I want to share with you in this particular episode. And he said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. So in your own life, what we try to do many times, many, 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 and probably most of you have tried to do, and again, I've been there, is we're not what we actually want to be in the external world and our internal world first. We're not wealthy in our consciousness. We're not wealthy in our mind. And that's like actually going to battle. And you know what? You actually try to win when you get there, but you can't win when you get there because you're already a defeated warrior. So that's why, and I know I've said, in the first couple of episodes, and this is a thread that runs all the way through the podcast each and every week in some form, is that we have to be it first. So when we talk about, your bank and your health and all this kind of stuff and your money and all these things in your external world, what is your subconscious identity? Also, I've had people say before, and I know I've said this, but I'll say it again. And the reason I say it again is because you know what? I will say things at different times in different episodes, and you might hear it differently when I say it one time. Or one time when I say it, you're distracted, or you know what? You're listening to the radio, or thinking about your next appointment, or the kids at home, or the dog's sick, or whatever, and you hear it, but you don't hear it. And as well, part of that is that your brain filters it out. The brain literally actually filters out a large degree of information that's not consistent with your unconscious identity. So even if I said, well, I'll say it actually, is that you can be a millionaire very, very easily, or you can be healthy, or you can be wealthy, or you can be in great relationships. If you currently actually, if you don't have that in your unconscious identity, notice how you're already arguing or filtering that out. Because, for example, let's talk about money. And the reason that I talk about money a lot is because so many people struggle with it and don't have it. I mean, in middle America right now, there are many Americans that struggle between paying their health care and paying their mortgage. But the great thing about talking about money is it's tangible. I mean, you can look in your bank account and see there's $100, there's 10 million. I mean, it's very tangible. But when I talk about confidence and different ways of being, those things are intangible and they're harder for people to get their mind around. But the question is this. Let's go back to this. When it comes to your health and your wellness, what is your subconscious identity? Now, many people will say things like, well, Jim, if you say it's subconscious and my identity is subconscious, well, then how do I know what it is? Easy. Because your external world, meaning your bank account, your physical health, the home that you live in, the car that you drive, and your relationships are all your subconscious identity, which actually precedes your belief systems. It's your subconscious identity objectified, meaning that if you want to know what you believe about the world, everything about the world, and banking and money and health and finance and relationships, that's really, really easy. Look at your external world because that is a reflection of your internal world. Now, obviously, here I'm talking about identity. And you've heard me say for probably the past 4 or 5 podcasts, mark your calendar for September the 4th because I'm going to be doing a no charge online training that afternoon. And I'm going to actually put a lot of pieces together for you about literally the way that I sequence thinking to transform people's subconscious identity. And there's no charge for that. But again, that's going to be on September the 4th, and there'll be more details coming later. But mark your calendar for September the 4th because I'm going to be doing a training again that's going to show you how, when I work with people, how I sequence their thought processes to assist them in creating the kind of identity they need at the unconscious level to create the outcomes they want in the external world. So, by this point, it's obvious that everything that you do, and this is really hard for a lot of us to get our mind around. I mean, it's pretty grandiose when you think about it, but everything, not some things, but everything that you do is part of your identity. I was hanging out with my family last night, and there was a person, well, there is a person in my family who used to be a vegetarian for many years. And I was talking to her about that last night, and I didn't talk to her about identity or any of that. Now she eats red meat, but at one point she was a air quote person who was a vegetarian. And so because she was a person who was a vegetarian, she did that in her behavior. So as I was saying, that everything in your life, everything. I don't know where you are right now, so let me keep on going here. If you're at the gym and you're on the treadmill, do you finish strong? Do you finish hard? Do you finish what you commit to? Or do you run for like 12 minutes and you're like, I'm done. I'm going to go downstairs to the sauna. That's a reflection of your identity. If you're in the car right now and you're driving, are you driving like a bat out of hell or are you driving like an old lady? What kind of car do you drive? That's a reflection of your identity. I've said before, I drive a Porsche. That's a reflection of my identity. Because you know what? It's not about the money or even if people think Porsche is prestigious or whatever. I don't care about any of that. That's not why I bought the car. Part of my identity has always been I love to drive and I love to drive fast cars. So I have the Porsche because it's a reflection of my identity. You might even have, what are those called? The Prius. And by the way, I am a huge, huge, well, I don't know if I can justify that. I am very, very mindful of conservation. I mean, I'm careful with the water in the house. I don't leave it on when, if I don't need to. I recycle everything. And for the most part, other than my Porsche, I do what I can to reduce my footprint. What's it called? The CO2, the carbon footprint. There we go. But look at your life right now. Seriously, wherever you are in your life. I mean, are you watching TV, 5 hours a day? Are you working yourself into the ground? I mean, literally, are you working 60 hours a week? Are you not showing up at all? Are you playing games all day long, online? Are you addicted to gambling? Do you not gamble at all? Sex. Do you have sex? That's a big thing, as a matter of fact. It's amazing to me. It's interesting to me. Let me put it that way. The amount of, and by the way, people don't talk about their sex lives in public, but it's interesting to me the amount of unhealthy sex lives that people have. I mean, literally, the amount of relationships that go for extended amounts of time with no sex. But it's not the sex; it's the intimacy and the connection that a lot of people don't have. You look at your money. Well, your money's reflection, which is very clear at this point. It's a reflection of your identity. Look at your relationships. Do you have to be in a relationship? Do you avoid relationships? Have you never been in a relationship? Do you cling to relationships? Are you afraid to leave relationships? Look at your anger. I've never been, no one that knows me can ever say they have seen me yell or scream at anyone. It's just not my way at all to yell or scream at anyone, and I wouldn't allow it to happen to me. But do you yell at, do you yell and scream at people? Do you allow people to yell and scream at you? And then look at love. What are your interpretations about it? Do you have it? Do you not have it? And do you have self-love? So I went through a lot of stuff there, but I really want you to really get your teeth into, you know, everything. Just take your time with this. Everything that you have in your life is a reflection of your identity. Now, speaking of identity, the definition of identity is a state or a nature or the nature of being who you are. Okay, so let's use an example about who you are. If you're broke, if you have no money, that has nothing to do with what you do. Everyone thinks that it does, but it doesn't, because see, who you do is a reflection of who you are. But if you don't have any money or you're struggling with money, that has nothing to do with the external world. That has to do with who you are. Now, let me share a simple example that I use all the time. And actually, you've probably heard me talk about smoking and Diet Coke before because they're very tangible, very real examples. And I remember someone actually wrote in and said, "Can you use different examples except smoking and Diet Coke?" Well, I could use a bazillion examples. I mean, what if you're eating Cheetos every day, or Ho-Hos, or Ding Dongs, or it just doesn't matter. I mean, it's just an example. Apply your own value here. But let's go to smoking for a second. Now, I want to ask you, and this will bring it home for you. Did you smoke any cigarettes today? Very simple answer. Yes, I did smoke, or no, I didn't smoke. Okay? Here's where we bring it home. If you smoked cigarettes today, which is a behavior, that means, for the most part, I mean, this might have been the first day you ever smoked a cigarette, I don't know, but for the most part, you know where I'm going here. If you smoked cigarettes today, then most likely, like a 99.999% chance, you are a smoker in your identity. Because what we do in our identity is what we do in our behavior. So if you smoked cigarettes today, you are a smoker. If you did not smoke cigarettes today, which is a behavior, then in your identity, for the most part, unless you're like air quote trying to quit today, then you are a non-smoker. Now, I want to go somewhere with that for a second. What I want to point out here is that people, we tend to actually just think very simply, one-dimensionally a lot of times. But I want you to look at those two examples because you can be listening and you're like, well, no, I didn't smoke today, or I did smoke today. Notice that smoking or not smoking is a reflection of identity, but let's go to your health and wellness. Did you eat well today and healthy, or did you not eat healthy today? Because I know people that actually have the identity of a very healthy person, and they would not in a million years put Kentucky Fried Chicken in their mouth, or Cheetos, or Doritos, or whatever. Why? Because in their identity, they are a healthy person. So hopefully that brings it home for you, because we're talking about smoking or Diet Coke or whatever. But what you do is what you are. Now here's the kicker. Let's go a little further with the example of smoking. Notice, if you are a smoker, it was very easy for you to smoke a cigarette. What I mean is, if in your identity you identify as a smoker, you did not have to fight yourself. You did not have to work to make yourself smoke. And the same thing if you are a non-smoker, because most of you, probably the majority, I don't know percentages, but the majority of you are non-smokers. Notice that being a non-smoker, you didn't have to fight yourself. You didn't have to force yourself not to smoke. It just happened naturally. So the whole point is whatever you are in your identity, it happens automatically and it happens naturally. Doesn't have anything to do with the external world. So if you are broke in your identity, it happens automatically and easily in your external world. If you are wealthy in your identity, then you literally, because you are being that, you do things that actually bring that kind of wealth and attract it into your life, and it happens easily and naturally. Hopefully that for you guys right there, hopefully that is like a big aha when you get that, you know what? If I am poor in my mind, but I try to go do things to make money, then it's going to be hard because I am not that thing, just like the example I gave you about smoking. If you were a non-smoker, then it's hard to smoke. But if you're actually poor in your mind, then it's going to be very, very, very hard to be wealthy. Why? Because you are not that. A simple phrase, and you may have heard me say it before, is that it's easy to do what you are, and it's hard to do what you are not. So it's easy to be healthy if you are that in your mind, and it's hard to be healthy if you are not that in your mind. So let's apply this. I want you to think right now, I want you to think about what is the number one thing that you want in your life that you do not currently have. Take a second with that. And for many of you, again, it's going to go right back to one of two places, money or health. But what's the number one thing that you want in your life right now that you do not have? Okay, here is, and I know that I've asked this before, but you know what? We as human beings, and I am not exempt from this, we as human beings, sometimes it takes us a long time to learn things. I mean, we can hear something like 8 times, and we kind of think we get it. And that ninth time, we're like, oh my God, palm the forehead, I get it. And being transparent with you guys, you've heard me, if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that my brother-in-law is a shaman that I've worked with. He's mentored me for literally like 24 years now. And last night when I was with him, I read to him an email that he wrote to me in 2001. And last night I said, you know what? You wrote this to me, I guess, what is that, 19 years ago or whatever, I don't know. Part of my identity is I'm not good at math. Anyway, I read him the email that was extremely profound. And I said, you know what? Even after all these years, I still don't comprehend all this. And I'm just like you. I'm working. I'm learning my lessons, but I'm learning different lessons than a lot of people because of the nature of apprenticing with a shaman and working with a shaman. However, we're all learning things. So that's why at some point some of you guys might be saying, for crying out loud, I wish some of you guys would get it, or hurry up or speed up. But you know what? Everyone's at their own pace and their own place. And, be compassionate and be patient, listening right now wherever you are. Because I promise you, if you're sitting here saying, oh, I got this, I got the health and wellness, well, you know what? I know this. There's other places in your identity where you're not getting it, but you're not seeing it because you have the things that you think that I'm talking about right now. So be compassionate. But the question that I have for you is this, for all of you. And I guess where I was going with this is you could say, oh, I make 1 million a year or 2 million, whatever. But you know what? If you want it, and it doesn't, it's up to you. Well, you don't have to want it. Doesn't matter. We all have different values. But what if, for example, you're making 2 million a year, but you actually are lonely and you have no relationship and you can't sustain a relationship? So what I want to ask all of you is what what identity would I need to be to have XYZ in my life? Consider that. What identity would I need to have XYZ in my life? Because I asked you just a couple of minutes ago, I do believe I asked you, is what is the one thing that you want that you don't have? If you don't have it, it's because you were not that, and you were not that at an unconscious identity level. So ask yourself and write this down and post it on the refrigerator or your screen or a sticky note or somewhere. But what identity would I need to be the number one salesperson in my office? Or, if you're in sales, but here, you know where I'm going with this. What identity would I need to be if I were to be perfectly healthy? Or if I could run 5 miles every day? Or if I could be really good at playing the piano? Or if I could be wealthy? Or whatever it is for you. So the question, the $64,000 question, and actually it's a lot more valuable than $64,000. But the question is this: what identity would I need to be or have to have blank? And what goes in the blank is what you're wanting to create. Okay, so the transformational takeaway is if you don't have it on the outside, it's because you're not yet that on the inside. So the question is, which this whole podcast is about, what's in you? And if you don't have it on the outside, it's not in you on the inside. Okay, the next episode, we're going to do something a little different next week, and we're going to give it a whirl and see how it works. But the next episode on Monday, instead of a Q&A, it's going to be called something like My Transformational Story. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite people from my transformational coaching program to sit down and visit with me about how they have significantly transformed their life. The first person that I'm interviewing, her name is Jennifer, and the reason I'm doing this is because I can do this podcast all day long, and you know what? You can listen to me, and it may resonate. And then sometimes, you know what? This is what I've noticed by doing transformational coaching and then having actually many times have my coaches actually uh, not just coach people, but do some live training for me, is that I can say something 10 times. And then one of my coaches will say it in a live coaching, and for some reason, it just hits home with people. But the reason why, it's not some reason, I know the reason, is I've been doing this a lot of years. And even my coaches who have been with me for, almost a couple of years now, all of them, they put their own spin on the content like you're learning here in the podcast. And when they put their own spin on it, many times people are like, "Yep, I can see myself in their eyes. I can see myself, and I can see myself in their life and everything." So we're going to do a transformational story next Monday with Jennifer. And as you'll hear, when she came into my programs, she will tell you that she was so depressed that she couldn't even get out of bed. And I also want to point out that I do not diagnose. I am not a psychotherapist. I'm not a licensed counselor or any of that. I do not diagnose or dispense psychological, counseling or any of that. And we talk about that in the interview. But she's going to talk to you about how she literally went from a place of not even wanting to get out of bed to a place of enjoying and creating a very, very happy life. And it's going to be her story. I mean, I ask her a few questions here and there, but you're going to hear her story, from her, and she's going to tell you the steps that she went through, that she started living from to create this new way of being for herself. So, whatever you do, make sure that you tune in and listen, and I'll catch you on that podcast. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.